As a chef and a winemaker, one of the favourite ingredients that I like to use in all of my cooking is, of course, wine. Now, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be travelling around France looking for some of the best examples of wine that we can use in our cooking, but also so that we can show you how to make some amazing dishes using wine as a core product. Well, this week I'm a private chef for a very wealthy family down in Saint-Tropez in the south of France. Now, in between cooking all my wonderfully luxurious dishes for them, I'm hunting and exploring around the Provence region, looking for some of the best possible wines that I can use in my cooking, and also enabling me to show you how to make some fantastically simple dishes. Well, you may be wondering why I am standing in the middle of a vineyard in the scorching midday sun, holding a bottle of wine and a glass. Well, the interesting producers and researchers of this television show thought it would be very exciting if I were to stand here and tell you a fascinating fact about food and wine. Well, here it is, the urban myth that a lot of people, including some really top chefs, go on about, is having white wine with white meat and red wine with red meat. Well, to me, that's a whole load of baloney, because it just doesn't work. One of the interesting and best meals that I've ever had happens to be a beautiful rare fillet steak and some Chardonnay wine, which is obviously white. And also, another perfect match that I find is salmon and Pinot Noir, which again is a red wine with a fish. So don't always believe those urban myths. The best thing to do is just to try it out for yourself and experiment. Of course, the best place to find your fresh foods and wine are in some of the French markets. You'll find loads of wonderful meats, breads, fish and vegetables. But remember, to get the best stuff, you'll have to get there about 6 in the morning. Now, some people believe when you're cooking with wine that you should actually use a really good quality wine to cook with, because then it will all come out in the flavour of the food. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, and really for 2 reasons. And the first reason is because if you're going to cook with a really good quality wine, I think I'd rather drink it than put it in the food. But also, a good quality wine, when you're drinking it, will taste completely different to the quality of the wine when you've boiled it, which effectively is what you're doing when you're cooking with it. So really, the lesson here that we want to get over is that you don't always have to spend a lot of money on a bottle of wine to cook with, when you can actually get some very, very cheap and good wines which bring out the flavour of the food fantastically well. Oh, now, on with the cooking. And I've got a great alternative to a classic French dish made with wine of the area. Now, one of my favourite dishes to make with wine is, of course, the famous French coq au vin. Now, I was going to do that for you today, but I've been lucky enough to go out with a friend this morning doing some shooting, and I bagged myself a rabbit, a nice Provençal rabbit. So it's going to be a bit, I guess, like a rabbit au vin. Now, normally, you'd be using a red wine with a coq au vin, but seeing as this programme's about experimentation and trying different things when you're cooking with wine, I'm going to actually use a white wine today. And seeing as we're down in Provence, I've got a great Luberon, which is the Charette Blanc grape, which is quite melony, it's quite citric. You know, you've got the apples and pears in there, but I think it's going to be really good and bring out some of the fantastic flavours of this rabbit when it's got all the herbs in. So it's quite a simple recipe. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put some butter in, and then we are going to fry some shallots, some white onions. Now, the French white onions are a lot sweeter and nicer and a little bit easier to eat than the English onions. We've got some lardons, we've got some garlic, of course, because we love to put garlic in everything. We've got some lovely Provençal herbs, some mushrooms and some carrots. Right, so first we're going to add the butter before we start putting in the rest of the ingredients. Now, this is good quality French butter, which you can't really replicate in England. And then the first thing to go in is, of course, the onions and the shallots. Now, this is quite a rustic dish, so there's no need to finely chop everything. And please, hand cut the garlic. It tastes so much better than if you use one of those awful crusher things. Now, the herbs that we've got are the Provençal herbs. So there's a bit of rosemary in there, there's a bit of thyme, there's a bit of marjoram. And we're just going to pop all these in there. And what will happen when we pour the wine in, all the flavours will release from them as they cook along there, and it'll be a really fantastic taste at the end of the day. Now I have to say, this is probably one of my favourite ways of cooking, you know, just turning up somewhere, getting a little camping stove out and cooking something fantastic, especially with wine. Now I've got a few chums coming over later just to join me to see what they think about rabbit. They've never had it before, and I did actually tell them that they were having coq au vin, not rabbit au vin. So now that's starting to cook really nicely. What I'm going to do now is add the rabbit, which is a bit I'm sure you've all been waiting for. So as it's a whole rabbit, what we have to do is we have to cut it up. And the best bits on the rabbit are obviously the back legs here and some of the belly here, just along there, and of course maybe a little bit on the front legs. So just with a pair of scissors, slowly cut through the bone and place the first bit in there.
I'm sorry if some of you find this all a bit too much, but remember, your food does have to come from somewhere, you know.
Alright, so now that the rabbit is in there and all the vegetables in there, the last bit of this fantastic recipe is of course the wine, which is the main ingredient. So a good liberal amount of this, so that you cover it, and it's just going to simmer for the best part of 45 minutes up to an hour. I'm just going to leave a little bit here, not in case it starts to bubble over, but just so that I can enjoy a little tipple while it's cooking, because I do have 45 minutes to wait. Right, so it's been 45 minutes to an hour, and this is pretty much done. Of course, my chums are a bit late, but that's okay. I'm hoping they're going to be here any minute now. But this is... Hey! Hi, guys! What? Well, tonight we've got... It is a rabbit au vin, so I hope you're looking forward to that. Right, well, I'll just serve this up, guys. And then we are ready to rock and roll. So this is rabbit au vin, cooked in very special Provençal wine. Right, okay, so now we're going to try this rabbit au vin. And what we've got is my two chums, who both of them have never had rabbit before, but I think they're both going to quite like it because it's in wine. Isn't that right? Yeah, so let's just try a bit. There we go. Ladies first, I think. Ah, come on. Off you go. Just try some of that, Amber, and see what you think.
That's really nice, the wine.
Oh, everything goes well in wine. Right, my sir, let's try some for you. There we go. Let me take that plate for you.
Very good.
Hey, so it's a success for both of you. Well, there we go. We can just see how easy it is to make something which is actually quite different from different wines and different meats, and a reincarnation, really, of the classic coq au vin, but with rabbit and white wine.
Well, there we are, a couple of convert rabbit virgins. I guess now we'll all have to finish the wine off and dance the night away.
She said you know me well. I've seen you, little Stephen and Joanna around the back of my hotel. Oh yeah.